Well, listen, we're excited for tonight. We're excited to, really dive into some strategies, um, listen, we're just going to flow tonight, but we're going to have fun. And at the end of the day, it's all about helping you guys, reach your goals and really get prepared best as possible for what God has for you. And I think, like we said before, to end this year strong, but also go into this next year just really equipped and ready to, tackle your goals and the things that God has assigned for you. So first of all, I just want to shout some people out really quick. Devon, what's up, man? Good to see you.
Good to
Brittany,
see you too. What up?
good to see you. Naomi, Tabitha, I believe Shannon. How you doing, Shannon? Bless you. And please forgive me, brother. Lionel, right? Is that how we say it? Lionel. All the way from Puerto Rico. What an honor to have you on, man. So, and I believe we definitely have more people that are registered, so I'm sure people will kind of jump on, tag in as we get started. But hey, listen, we are here, so we're gonna make this thing work, and we're gonna get started. So, I have the great privilege of doing this and hosting with my wife, Janelle Bush. Let's give it up for her. And also my brother, the push coach, DeUndrae Cockrell. Let's give it up for him as well. So yeah, let's get into this. So we have a few different things. So we have, just to kind of lay the evening out, we have some questions that we're gonna, just some general questions to like go over in attack, just general things that we all just want to have answers to when it concerns setting goals and really the strategies behind goal setting. Because how many know, like, just because you set a goal, just because you write something down, there's a little more, there's more steps to it, if that makes sense. And so we want to really kind of go into a little deeper than just, I wrote my top 10 goals down for the year, because we all know that, when you have a goal, there are a lot of times you find yourself hitting resistance, you find yourself distractions, you got to deal with your belief set, belief system sometimes that needs to be adjusted as well as you're going after your goals. So I'm excited. So what I want to do is I'm just open it up to Janelle, my wife Janelle, and DeUndrae, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So you guys can introduce yourself and talk to the people really quick.
My phone did some kind of update with Zoom, and it's always hard to get unmuted after I'm mute. So can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. To see heads nodding. So yeah, super excited to have y'all on tonight. Just want to also acknowledge, I don't know if you mentioned him or not, but Matt Kim, he's really like our media mastermind. He's made the graphics. He's got that awesome setup that Andrew's at. He's over at his studio. So we definitely just want to shout out our brother there. Y'all go follow him on Instagram. He comes with cutting content. Like, you listen to him, you're gonna get your life together. So make sure you go follow him on Instagram too. We love Matt. We're so grateful for him to be a part of all these things. And so I'm just very excited. Like Andrew said, I'm Janelle. I'm starting to get into the coaching sphere. And so I'm really excited for what's to come. I love to help women find their purpose and work out all their different facets. So that's my thing. I'm the multifaceted women's coach. And so I just believe, women have dreams and visions, and they also have a lot on their plate. So we're going to figure out how we do it, how we work this thing out with grace and with joy. So that's my thing. Y'all can follow me on social media if you want. DeUndrae?
Can y'all hear me? Good.
Can hear you.
Hello, everybody. So I am excited, just like Janelle said, like Andrew said. I'm excited to be a part of this with some amazing people. So, I am, as he said earlier, I am the push coach. So I am the one that pushes you. I love to push people into their purpose, into their destiny, push them out of limbo, push them into action. And so I'm excited to do this with them, with Pastor Andrew, with Pastor Janelle, with Kent, with Matt, who is a beast, so like she said, you listen to Matt, you're gonna get your life together. So so I'm just excited about being here and I'm just ready to go. So we ready. Oh, and you can follow me also on Instagram, or you can add me on Facebook. So
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. So for the setup tonight, we wanted to start off with us each bringing just a piece of prepared like presentation regarding goal setting, because we each are coming with different angles and experiences. So we're each going to go through. So you're going to get like 3 mini sessions. And then at the end of tonight, when I did the Eventbrite, for those who registered at the very beginning, I didn't have this feature, but I went and added it not too long after I opened the event up. But I asked a question about, what you'd like to learn about this topic. So we got some really good questions that we're going to conversate through, but also we want to give you the chance to ask your own questions. So just keep that in mind. If a question does come to you, write it down. And then when it's time, you can put it in the chat, or probably the chat would be the easiest to moderate since we don't have a fourth person to watch tonight. But yeah, so just keep that in mind. We will give you the opportunity to ask questions at the end. So yeah, so Andrew, do you want to start with what you have prepared for tonight?
Sure. Why not? Yeah, I guess I didn't really introduce myself like they did. So I'm Andrew Bush. I'm a life coach as well. I consider myself more of like the purpose coach. I really enjoy helping people find their lane and find their sweet spot, really tap into their originality. And my tagline is own your difference. And so I love that. And so you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook as well. My link tree, I have some stuff in there, more things. Actually, I would encourage all of you to check in my on my Instagram bio, in my link tree, I'm sorry. I have a 12 question PDF. You just download it. It's just 12 questions to help you discover your purpose. I would encourage you to check those out. Just kind of get you into thinking, get you kind of processing your own life. And I think it'll really help you when it concerns purpose. So listen, tonight I have three, what I'm going to share is three parts. It's 3 parts to, really concerning goal setting. This is kind of going to give you like more of a foundation of the backdrop of goal setting, and kind of like I'll say the engine, you will, of creating goals. So my 3 things are, one is clarity, then second is consistency, and then thirdly is execution. And so I'm going to break those down. So I'm going to start with clarity. Clarity is to be clear, right? So before I can get into a goal, before I can start with doing anything, what happens is, I'll say the scripture says this in James. It says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And so what happens is, before we can set a goal, before we get into a lot of things we want to do, sometimes we have to get still enough to get a clear understanding where we currently are. First, I need to know, where am I at in my life, and not only that, like, what is most important right now, because sometimes what I find is sometimes our goals can be, I don't want to tag into anything anybody else is going to talk about tonight, but sometimes they're locked into ambition, and what happens is we can find ourselves winding out because it was not from a real true place. So when you're clear, you're set and you know exactly where you're going, where you're at, so then you can move forward. So really, to get that clarity, the first thing is like vision. You got to have vision, because You know, the Bible says, write the vision, make it plain upon tables. No, yeah, write the vision, make it plain. So that those who read it can run with it, but also, even though it may tarry, wait for it, because it shall come to pass. So vision has a process and it has a time to it. And so sometimes it's important to, when you have vision, to allow yourself to, you have to be clear enough that you understand that it will be a process. So if you're not clear, you'll move from that thing very quickly, because you know there's a process to vision, you know. And so it's important to know that, right? So the Bible also says that where there's no vision, the people perish. Or another version says, where there's no vision, the people run wild. So when I don't have vision, I don't have sight, and if I don't know where I'm going, oftentimes we find ourselves in and out of everything. I've been there several times where you try this and you try that, and you jump into this and you jump into that. But it really leads to no clear place, you know. And so you find yourself wondering, confused, and sometimes you find yourself back to the same place you started. And so the next place is the mission, right? So the mission is, you know, the mission is, what am I accomplishing? Like, what is going to, what am I doing to fulfill that vision, right? Like what is the map of
Andrew went mute.
Okay, can you hear me? We're all good? Okay. So I was talking about a mission. So the next thing is to have a mission. When you have a mission, your mission is it's going to line up to the vision, right? And so your mission is, you want to open up a children's home. And so the mission would be to be able to get, you know, kids that are in broken homes, get kids out of shelters and stuff like that, right? There's a specific target that you're aiming at. And those two things will end up landing into the third part, which is purpose.
Andrew muted again.
Okay. Good. Okay. So yeah, so once we write our vision, I don't have to get into that today because this is about goal setting. But then once we have our mission, that's lining up with that vision, to know, to be specific, to know what the very target is. And then once we have that purpose, the purpose is the why we're doing it, right? So vision is the big picture. I see us changing nations. I see us, you know, having you know, a business that's going to reach say impoverished neighborhoods, right? So you see this big thing. And so the mission is the mission is how we're going to do it. And then the purpose is, why are we doing it, right? Because we know, if you don't know why you're doing something, you can start, but that why is that passion that's going to keep you burning for it when things get hard. Okay, I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. So the second part is consistency. So when we're clear, when we have clarity, now we can get into consistency. And consistency, I'm going to just name a few different things within consistency. So consistency, you have system, which means save yourself time, energy, and money. So once you're clear, you now know what you need to do. And so now we need to create a system that's going to keep us, and I'll say this, a daily method of operation. So daily method of operation, you know, now you know your vision, know your mission, and you know the purpose. So now we can get to a place of, what do I need to do on a daily basis that's going to cause me to go back to fulfilling that vision, right? So at 6 o'clock when I wake up, I need to read this. I need to make this amount of posts. I need to I need to reach out to this many people. I need to call this type of people. I need to go to here. I need to create this graphic. I need to, whatever it is that you're doing, you're building, those daily things that you need to do, is very important. Like it's pretty much said like the money, what is it? The money making activity, things that are going to help you increase your business, increase what you're doing. And then, you want to, we're talking about consistency. You want to get to a place where you have a funnel, you have, you can offer things where things start to, because of technology, within consistency, we can create funnels, and we can create ways to monetize what you're doing. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. Like I said, because of technology, you can create funnels. You can do ads, you can do so many different things that can really help you be consistent. I mean, even your social media now, you can use different platforms that can post for you, and do a lot of things, follow up for you. Even now, I just discovered something on Facebook Messenger. There's an it's called L Messenger Pro. You probably write that down, but it will automatically reach out to people, talk to people, maybe people you would like to work with, maybe people that are in certain Facebook groups that you are kind of, maybe they're aligned to the same thing that you're doing. And so you can click a button on there, and it'll reach out to them people with a free message that you have already set in place to follow with them. So it's pretty cool. All right, so my third part is execution, right? Obviously, execution is where it all goes down. I'm sure you all have heard the saying, the fortune is in the follow-up, or pretty much is, I've set these goals, I have this consistent thing, but then we got to get to the other side of the breakthrough. And that's where execution comes in. And so execution is, I would say there's a few different things that we need to make sure we have in place for to execute, to follow through everything we're doing. Because obviously once you start, you find yourself hitting resistance. So one of the things is accountability. I would say tonight what we're doing is this has happened because of accountability. You don't see him, Matt, he's behind the camera, but we've been having groups. We've been talking about this for a while. We got some other things coming up. We're super excited, but we have been able to, we call ourselves the Coach Club, where we just been kind of growing with each other, keeping each other accountable, pushing each other. And because of it, it's caused us to keep moving forward. Maybe one of us is having a bad day. Maybe one of us is discouraged. But because you have a team that you're working with, the person that's discouraged can now feed off the energy of the person that's inspired, and then maybe next time you're not feeling it, but the inspiration keeps going, the motivation keeps going when you have that accountability. This is something called a failure. I'll say a failure pre-plan. Let me say that. So I would encourage everyone here to write this down, because this is a little different, but I think it can help you. So what this is you go through as if you've done the things that you've already set. Your vision, your mission, your purpose, you got your consistency, you got your system set up, you got all this stuff, the things you need to do, right? But so I want you to just picture yourself, and maybe you don't have the exact goal right now, but just find something. It don't have to be big, but begin to think about the end goal of it. And I want you to see it happening, but failing. I want you to see it as if you started doing it. Say if you was going to post for 30 days or something. But before you started, see it not happen. Like, see yourself doing it, but see something happening that will throw you off track. Right. And what I mean is, I'm not trying to make you feel afraid but what that does is you almost got to start to prepare yourself for the worst, right? Not that the worst is going to overtake you, but when you already understand beforehand that things are going to happen, now what we're going to do is with what you have just saw hindering what you're doing. Now, what are you going to do when that happens? So you got to put that part of your plan. When, you know, I'm 15 days in and the kid's getting sick, everything is just, you know, my camera broke. Like, so what am I going to do now? You know, am I going to borrow somebody else's phone? I don't know, whatever you can do. But you kind of think about, okay, say if you're going to the gym, I'm going to the gym, so I'm going for 30 days and begin to see it happening. What are you going to do on those days when you're tired? What are you going to do on those days when like your body's sore and you're just exhausted? Like, what are you going to do in that moment? And when you begin to allow your mind to go there, you can actually start to create, you can really begin to build the thoughts up. So when you get to that moment, you'll actually push past it very easily. A lot more easy. Let me say not very easy. And so when we do that, it kind of positions us to not be thrown off track when things don't go the way we want, you know? And so that's very important. And also, so when you're with execution, it's always important to always remember your why factor. Remember why you're doing it. You got to know why you're doing it. You're going to the gym, just know why you're going to the gym, right? Actually, I just got back into the gym and I've always been into the gym, you know, because I've played ball and even some college ball and stuff, but I've definitely have gotten a little off track, you know, and I'm kind of determined not to have a dad bod. And I just really want to just be healthier anyway. But my goal is I found an old picture. And so it's kind of given me something to aim towards. And so I'm like, you know what? I want to be in that place. I want to, because I realize if I don't have an idea or goal in mind, it's easy to just start and stop. So I was just trying to find something to know why you're doing it. Be ready for difficulty and resistance, which kind of already talked about that. You know, I really feel like, you know, when you think about goals and conquering what you're going after, and I know sometimes it's like subconsciously we don't want to do it because it's like, you know, I don't, you know, we would rather just, you know, if it shows up, it shows up. But if you really plan it out as if things don't happen like you want, then you start to almost increase your ability to be creative when those oppositions show up. And so it's not a failure for you to think about it failing. It's actually you being more strategic, and it's causing you to be more able to overcome it. And lastly, I want to say this when it concerns execution, you had to build yourself up personally. You cannot go far. You cannot go no further than who you are. Like in other words, your belief system. You know, everywhere you go, everywhere I go, I'm going to be there. So no matter a change of circumstances, my belief systems, the way I think, the way I process, the way I see life, isn't based upon what's happening. It's based upon how I'm responding, and how I'm responding is based upon my belief system, what I believe is possible. Belief means to accept that something is true. So you have to ask yourself, what do you accept is true? If you are accepting that what your goal is or what you're going after isn't, if you haven't took the time to get your belief system in order about it, then what actually happened is, what I mean is to spend time to accept that it's true for you. You know, you got, as you get into your goals, you gotta see yourself already conquering it and overcoming and winning in it, right? So you have to accept it, receive it. So by the time you're doing it, you've already got the victory, but now you're just walking in the reality of it. And so it's important that we constantly work on our belief system every day. You should be, and I also would say this, and then I'm done. I would say this: you always want to make sure you're listening and focusing on growing in the thing that you're working on, right? So this is what I mean. If you're a teacher and you're trying to grow into be a professor, or you're trying to be better in teaching, then you probably you should not spend more time watching basketball or watching people fight on social media, or, you know, just different things that can easily take our attention. So you want to guard your attention. The Bible says, guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it flows the issues of life, right? Everything is going to contend for your focus and your attention. And when you can be sure to lock in your belief, lock into to believing God. Lord, if you show me I can do this, then I'm going to do everything I can to guard my heart, so that I'm ready and capable to conquer what I am going after. All right, you guys, that's my segment. I hope it made sense. I hope you got something out of it. And yeah, that's all I have right now. So I'm going to pass it back to Ms. Janelle Bush.
Thank you, Andrew Bush. So awesome. That was awesome. And really appreciate, especially, you know, those mindset tips, because that's definitely one thing. It's one thing to write a goal down, but when you start working it out is when you start facing all your fears, all your thoughts about yourself. And that's really a huge part of overcoming when we set goals, for sure. So I really appreciate what you shared. I think some people got on while he was talking, so just want to reset for a second. We're just going to go through and give like mini sessions real quick, and then we're going to go over some questions and allow you to ask questions. So if you just logged on, and as you get questions, feel free to make a personal note, and when it's time for questions, we'll open it up for you to be able to ask questions about goal setting, accomplishing goals, creating goals, you know, most of those things. So I'll do it next, and then we'll let DeUndrae finish for the sessions. And so, yeah, so I'll dive right in. So, yeah, so what is a goal? When I was planning for this, you know, the best imagery I got was football. You know, we watch a football game and there is a clear, specific goal, you know, on two ends of the field that they're going after. And so, you know, obviously it's the object of our ambition, it's the object of our effort, it's the way we're aiming, it's our desired result. And so, you know, we can see that most obvious in a football game, that the goal is set and the teams are doing everything they can to reach those goals. And so if we think about it like that, when we look at our life, we have to decide where are we going to place our goalposts. And then once our goalposts are placed, how do we get there? And then, so what does it take to get there? So those are kind of breaking it down again into like the mindset. Also, especially because Andrew and I are married, we may touch on some of the same things, but with different language. But I think that's okay, because sometimes when we hear things multiple times or from multiple sources, sometimes somebody else saying it again makes it click. So I just want to say I may cover some of the same things, but because he was touching on some of my own things, but I think it's always okay, because you know, the more you hear it, the more it gets internal and it starts making sense for you. And so, okay, so creating goals, you know, you decide where you want to place your goalpost. So that's really just defining your goal, how to get there, and so what does it take to actually get there. And so that makes you have to determine, where are you currently. If we're talking about placing a goalpost somewhere in your life, you have to understand where you're actually at right now. You have to be realistic about where you're at, who you are right now, as you're deciding where to place goalposts. And so obviously the next step is deciding where you want to be. And so if we were to think about, you know, the football field, they decided a football field is going to be so many yards long, or whatever the measurement is, because I'm not a football person. But you decide how big the field is, and then where we actually want to put the goalposts, you know. And so that's where you're deciding, where do you want to be? And then what does it take to get there? If you think about a football player, that's their training, that's their conditioning, that's their team building. All those components come into play when it comes to them reaching goals. And so, you know, our lives are very similar. We can look at that and break it down into our lives, that it's going to take conditioning, it's going to take training. But we also have to be able to see where our goal is, which is what Andrew was talking about, that clarity. And so I think understanding, sometimes it's a process just to get to clarity. Sometimes it takes longer to create your goal because you want to get clear. And sometimes that's why we don't accomplish our goals, because we don't get clear enough, because we're making goals according to other people's thoughts for our life when it's not true to ourselves or it's not authentic to us. Sometimes we're making goals by, just like he said, ambition, where we want to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's realistic for where you're at right now. Putting a goalpost from one end of the United States to the other is not realistic to arrive to in one day from a football player. It takes multiple days to run cross country. And so you have to be realistic about where you're at and what you can reach in this season or in this moment, with certain factors such as your availability, your energy, your resources. You have to look and see what it is you have that can allow you to accomplish these goals. And while we can be dreamers, it's important to be grounded too in what we actually have in our hand today. Because I'll tell you, the human beings, we are resourceful. So you can have 2 pennies and figure out what to do with it, but you have to just be honest with what you have. If you only have 2 pennies, but in your mind you're trying to work like you have $200 bills, it's not going to be the same, because you can't go spend a penny like you can go spend $100 bill. So you have to be realistic what you have. But as human beings, we have an incredible resource, within ourselves. We have such creativity. I posted a story on my Instagram the other day about artists making handbags out of food, and I was, people might have thought I was mocking it, but I was actually quite impressed that somebody looked at broccoli and said, let me make a purse out of that. So I just feel like as human beings, there's such creativity we can tap into. So being realistic about what you have doesn't mean you're limited, but it gives you somewhere to start. So I wanted to go over, I have 8 common habits of successful people. And so I'm going to go over those in a minute, but I just want to cover back over the process part, because success has a process. And so just like football players, let's just say a football player's life, they actually probably start in elementary or middle school or high school, and getting to the NFL is a process. And just like you and I, when we arrive to our goals, we're not the same person as when we started. So you have to change in the process of accomplishing goals. And that's where sometimes when people are looking at goals and dreams that are bigger than themselves, I have to encourage them that by the time you get there, you're not going to be who you are today. So just understand that where you place a goalpost, because of the conditioning and the training you have to go through to get there, by the time you get to that goal, you yourself are going to be changed too. And your journey gives you nutrients to sustain that accomplishment. So just keeping that in mind, the process, like Andrew was saying, the mindset stuff. So first off, so I have 8 common habits that are attributed to successful people. Number 1, visualize the future. This is what Andrew was talking about as far as clarity. What you see and how you see it matters. When you look in the Bible, there was a time where there were some spies sent out to look at a land, and they came back. There was 2 that said that were okay, they had courage about the situation, but the rest of them said, oh my gosh, we're grasshoppers in their sight. They saw themselves as small, therefore they weren't willing to approach the task. They weren't willing to approach the goal of conquering that land. And so when you visualize the future, it's important to notice what you see and how you see it, because you can look at your future and say, I'm never going to make it. And that's going to make you never pursue it. But like Andrew was saying, if you visualize your future with a proper mindset that says, I can get there, that's when you start getting in motion. That's where you start getting motivated, and you start finding things that motivate you. Another part of when you take the time to visualize who you are and where you're going, you actually start to become more open to see the opportunities that are for you. As you start to get clarity about where you want to go and about where you want to put your goalposts, you start realizing what fits in your life and what doesn't. So just that clarity exercise and having the vision for your future, that by itself starts opening you up to opportunities. You start taking opportunities more seriously, where you're like, hey, wait a minute, that's my goal. So say you're wanting to write a book next year. And so you got clear on that goal that by November, you're going to have a book written. So April comes around and you see a writer's network. Well, you've gotten clear on your goal. So you see that writer's network and you've feel like you fit with that. You feel like that's a fit for your life because you've got clear on your goal. So you take advantage of that opportunity. You take advantage of that social opportunity, that networking opportunity, because you're clear on your goal. But if you're still wishy-washy, if you want to be an author or not, you'll look at that author's event and just exclude yourself, discount yourself and say, that's not me. But once you get in the process of approaching goals, you're going to take opportunities more seriously because you're taking yourself more seriously. Number 2, work backwards. So once you identify where it is you're heading, this is where, some people had the question about how do I break it down into small goals? So the best way to do is look at the big thing and work backwards till you get to where you are today. So that's seeing, okay, I want to make $5,000 in 1 month. $5,000 is the top goal. So the next goal, like you'd break it down, 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000. What does it take to make $100 a month with my product? So work backwards and think practically and realistically. Again, just knowing where you're at, being realistic about where you're at. And understand having the goal isn't what sets you apart, because so many of us have similar goals. There's 1,000 of you, 1,000 people in the world who have restaurant goals, who have fitness goals, who have authorship goals. So what sets us apart if we all have the same goal? All of us want to make, $20,000 a month. But what sets us apart from those people who are on Forbes or those people who are, making that money? It's the system that Andrew was talking about. So having the goal is one thing, but figuring out the system is another thing. It's how you plan and how you implement that will set you apart. It's you deciding to work when others are deciding to sleep. That's going to set you apart. Even and also as you're figuring out your system, understanding the small steps even matter. Again, if we think about a football game, when you watch that game, if somebody moves this far, they move the stake or the post, whatever it's called. They take every yard seriously. And you need to take every yard, every inch, every step seriously in your life. Because once you get clear on your goal, you see that the small steps aren't actually small, because you're doing more than the average person is just by taking small steps towards your goal. Number 3, have accountability. Again, Andrew touched on this, including to yourself. So accountability can be 2 things, keeping the right company, being around the right people. Don't be around people who clown your business, who clown your purpose. It's not, I'm in a place, I understand where you keep some people around where it's not always a mutually beneficial relationship, but other times you've got to know the company you keep. And some people can be draining you from your creativity, from your problem solving, from your energy, your actual like physical energy. Some people are physically draining, so being mindful of the company you keep, but also being accountable to yourself. And this is where you learn to take your words seriously. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, just like we've all been disappointed by people who have failed promises to us. So let's not be that to our own self. Begin to take your words seriously. Only commit to that which you are really serious about doing. So again, that's where that realistic piece comes in, because sometimes we're dreaming too big or we're trying to accomplish, step 72 when we really just need to work on steps 1 through 5. So I'm not saying don't dream big, but also just be realistic about where you're at. But get back to your word being bond. That's one thing. We have so much opportunity to just be so loose with our words, but take your word seriously. And as you even do that in relationships, you start doing it with yourself too. Where if you say, hey, you wake up and say, I'm going to do this 5 days a week, keep that promise to yourself, because you matter just as much as other people do. And that builds up your belief. It builds up your confidence. It builds up your freedom too, where you're not walking around feeling like a failure because you've broken all your promises you've made to yourself. So it does wonders for your self-esteem, even just to do what you say you're going to do, to keep your word. Number 4, have clear deadlines. So it's important to have clear deadlines of accomplishing goals, because you need clear systems of measurement. If you don't have clear lines of success, you're going to walk around always feeling like a failure because you don't have anything to say like, hey, I accomplished this. It's just all very fluid and out there, like when we're not making clear goals, clear deadlines, you don't have anything to measure. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I moving forward? Deadlines give you data, like they give you the opportunity to really look objectively at how you're spending your time, how are you managing your resources. But when you don't have those goals, you can always move. It's like when I play games with my kids, they're always changing the rules. They're always moving the goal. They're always moving the goalposts. Like, they move it to their comfort. Like if we don't have clear goals and clear deadlines and have people keeping us accountable to that, we're very prone to just move things according to how we feel that day. So have the clear deadlines, have accountability. Number 5, take ownership. This is taking it on yourself. Own the responsibility of what accomplishing this goal is going to take. This is the mindset stuff Andrew was talking about. You take ownership of the days you're not consistent, and you just own it instead of letting it drag you down and make you feel all guilty and like, oh, I might as well just give up because like I missed 2 days in a row. Like, no, just own it, just eat it and say, I'm going to do better on Wednesday. Feel the burn and change accordingly, but understand that the ball is in your hands to accomplish this goal. It's nobody else's responsibility at the end of the day. This is really on you, but it's also an opportunity to have more pride and, more sense of accomplishment than ever when you're willing to take ownership of your life. Then you really get engaged in everything. Be ready to work, just understanding that goals take work. Number 6, literally write it down. Yeah, if you look at the research, there's so much research, and I have a thing, like I'm a digital rebel. Like I love pencil and paper. Like you can't convince me. Nothing satisfies my soul better than pencil and paper. And I've read some tips about how to make digital notes, come to your mind, like, or resonate with you just as much as like pen and paper. But I'm sorry, you can't convince me. Like I love a good gel pen on paper. It satisfies me. Write down your goals. Research has proven over and over again, there is an evident increase of accomplishing your goals once you write them down. One study I saw showed that. Now, granted, I don't know the pool of people in this study because I was like, that's a very high percentage. But a study showed a 42% more chance to accomplish a goal just by those who wrote it down. So again, get clear, then write it down. Number 7, don't underestimate inspiration. You need to be inspired. You need motivation. We talk about how to be motivated. You need to be around things that motivate you, things that inspire you. This is a motivating event. This is something that gets your wheels turning. Don't be afraid and don't be ashamed. You don't have to do it all yourself. You don't have to get your wheels turning yourself. Get in front of something that inspires you. I know for me, the time in the presence of God inspires me. Lord Jesus, no, inspires me. It motivates me because I get in the presence of God and I'm praying and He's reminding me of purpose. He's clearing my heart up. My mind's getting free in Him. That I feel ready to accomplish goals again. He builds me back up. Podcasts, books, but just make sure, obviously we can't have too much inspiration because then we're just going to be floating around like, no, gotta have a little work in there. But, make sure you keep inspiration in your week. Look at things, find out what inspires you. For me, I love bright colors. Give me bright colors and glitter. I'm ready to go. Like I'm inspired. I'm good. Give me some coffee. I'm good. But yeah, find what inspires you, find what motivates you, and make sure you visit that periodically. Vision boards. I do those because it's as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. How we see things is what we pursue. So if you're building that vision up, that's something you put before yourself. And it does something. Like when you look scientific research, it really resonates internally to have images before you of where you see yourself going. Number 8, trade habits. Everything can't go with you. Netflix binges may not be able to go with you. Leisurely hanging out with friends may have to die down to once or twice a month. just understand this is a part of that work ethic that has to happen in order to accomplish goals. For some, depending on where you're starting, you know, if you've already kind of allowed your life to be refined, you may not be there, but you know, get to that point where this goal is so big in front of you that you begin to, you know, make the necessary changes, because you know things are stealing time and energy, and inspiration. You know, I can watch the news and feel totally flabbergasted by everything going on, you know, so I understand, like I can't watch that if I'm about to go create or work, you know, just understanding who you are and how you work. um but knowing you may have to let some things go, maybe not everything can come with you. Also, so that's my eight successful, you know, eight common habits of successful people. Also, one thing, the one common thread in these questions was like, how do I get over being demotivated? And I think, as Andrew was saying, like, have a plan for failure. um you know, what do we do when the motivation is dying, when we're tired, when we're failing, you know, when we feel like we're failing? And I just think, you know, it's important to be aware that you can be demotivated. Like, don't see it as fatal, but do see it as a threat. Understand the demotivation can come. So that's where you become prepared. You know, how do I overcome not feeling motivated? One, we have to not base our actions on feelings all the time. Sometimes there is a time for rest. Sometimes you do need to put the work away and go hang out with your family and go take a walk outside. But other times you have to like ignore that feeling and say, I have a goal, you know. So it's just understanding, you know, what the present need is, but being fluid with it. So these are three common demotivators that happen to us when we're in the process of working out goals. Having an unrealistic expectation of time, or just acknowledging that a goal will take time. So I think having in your mind, depending on the size of your goal, now obviously we can have micro goals or big goals, you know, depending on the size of the goal, what if it does take 10 years? You know, will those 10 years be worth it? Or how will you make those 10 years be worth it? You know, how do you find purpose in those 10 years between now and then? You know, and that's where you really live for every moment, and you live alive in every moment, and you live looking for purpose in every moment, and you live making every moment count. Is what if it does take 10 years? Um, because it'll be worth it. With your goal, it'll be worth it if that's what it takes. Because what's the alternative? You don't do it. You walk away. Your goal is to have a restaurant and you give up saying, I can't do it. You know, I can't wait 10 years. Well, what's the option? You go work for somebody else in their restaurant? I mean, it's up to you what you want to do. But I'm just saying, this is where the visualization comes in. This is where, you know, being clear about your goals really comes in, and understanding, being realistic about time. I have a saying, fall in love with time and become friends with failure. You know, failure can be your friend because you can talk to it, you can interview it, you can say, hey, what did I do wrong here? You know, where could I have done better? Like, be friends with failure. We're always afraid of failure. We think it's a monster, but be friends with it. Be okay with it accompanying you on this journey. Like, come on, failure. Because you know what? Like, if you look at any great inventor, their inventions came from failures. They had to fail to get to their great invention. So be okay with failure. Failure's not fatal unless you let it be. Fall in love with time, because time is on our side. Like, that's one thing our world isn't, you know, it's very easy um to feel rushed, that you don't have enough time. But approach things as if you do have enough time. You know, make like, what would you do if you did have enough time? And build your life with that perspective. But just understanding it is going to take a process. And so many times we try to cut corners only to realize we're back at the place we tried to avoid. So just do it well the first time. To do what it takes the first time. Um, Difficulty. This is, again, Andrew touched on this. You know, the goal is just the start of this process. Realize that coming on difficulties is normal, but yet difficulties are the things that usually throw us off. So the difficulty isn't a sign to quit, it's a sign to overcome. And so when it comes to difficulties and goals, like, don't always look for the easiest. Sometimes we have to. Sometimes that's the method at the moment that needs to take place, is let me find just the easiest way to get this done. But don't always look for the easiest. sometimes you need to look for authenticity. When it comes to overcoming difficulty, like easy is a path, but authentic is a better path. So sometimes you need to remain true to your purpose. This is where Andrew's practices come into play about purpose, is remain true to that purpose, because you could take an easy way and it not be the same result that you were looking for. So just understand, goal accomplishing, goal setting takes committing and applying yourself. If it was easy, you would have done it by now. They would have done it by now. What has kept you from going to the next? Identify that and understand when it comes that you're determined, you come with a plan, how to overcome that thing that makes you get stuck. And you put your hand on your chest and call yourself a problem solver. Like, you have every faculty inside of you necessary. And if not, go listen to some podcasts, get some inspiration, get some wisdom, talk to some professionals, talk to a mentor, but you have what it takes to be a problem solver when you come upon difficulties, which gets into the next point, is the mindset, because having the wrong mindset will keep you from having that tenacity and that grit. If you don't see yourself as capable, you come upon a difficulty and you're not even going to try, because you've already made up in your mind, I can't do hard things. But if you constantly tell yourself, I'm a problem solver, I can do this, with God, all things are possible. With man, it's impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Ask me for wisdom. That's what scripture says. If you're a Christian, ask me for wisdom and I'll give it to you. Like, there's always a solution somewhere. But if you don't believe you have what it takes, you're not going to go after it. You're not going to overcome those obstacles. Also, lastly, when it comes to like failure, disappointments, being demotivated, just know it's okay to not know everything from the get. You may come upon things you don't know, and that's your opportunity to figure it out then and there. Don't stress over what you don't know now if it's not something you need to know right now. So just understanding that, these things, it's fluid. Like, you can grow as you go. You can learn as you come upon it. Don't stress over everything. Just worry about what you need to do. Again, when we work backwards, what's this next step? Figure that out. Keep track of all your ideas. So when it does come time to take new goals, create new goals, like, you have ideas and you have your thoughts. I don't know how long I am. I could go on, but I feel like I went longer than I should have. All right, let me do this last one. Then I'm going to get to DeUndrae. My last one is, when it comes to creating your goals, collect your own personal data. Everybody else is creating data on our habits. Why aren't we? Look at your habits. Look at what you do. And I've got some questions if you want to write them down. And when I'm done, I'll drop them in the chat. So when it comes to collecting data about your life, okay, we're at the end of 2022. What challenged you this past year? Why was it challenging? What were some opportunities you had? Did you take them? Why or why not? What was the result of taking or not taking the opportunity? What worked this year for you? Why did it work? What didn't work out this year? And why didn't it work? So those are just some questions to look at how you've lived this past year, so you can go into 2023 with more understanding about what it's going to take for you. Like, how will you set these goals? How far out do you space them? What is it that makes you quit so easily? What is it that makes you fall every time? Like, understanding, like, okay, why didn't you get as far as you wanted to this year? Or maybe you did get far. Like, you got to take that into account too. Pat yourself on the back for the things you did do this year. If you had a list of 20 things to do this year and you did 2, congratulations, you did 2. It's better than 0. Like, give yourself grace for just moving forward. But then look at your life. If we want to live a life well lived, okay, take data on yourself. Examine yourself, examine your habits, and then apply those and be realistic about how you set your pace for this next year. All right, I'm done. I'm gonna be quiet. Go ahead, DeUndrae.
You actually could have kept going. Um, that was amazing. So y'all, honestly, a lot of things that they've shared, both Andrew and Janelle, I've had some of those things. So this is funny. One of the biggest things that I want to talk about is intentionality. In the midst of goal setting, one of the things about it is you have to be intentional. Like Janelle said, goals are a start, right? And so because goals are a start, one of the definitions of goals is the fact that it's the object of ambition. So goals without ambition isn't good, and ambition without goals aren't good. But both are dangerous if you don't take the next step. Because if goal is the object of ambition, and if ambition is the desire that you have to get something done, the next step is, okay, how do I set this up? So one of the things about it is you have to decide to be intentional. What is intentionality? It's a mindset. It's a mindset that no matter what comes, and watch this, no matter even what I believe. Andrew said it earlier, you have to be okay with even dealing with your belief system. You have to be okay with what you face in the midst of it. You have to be okay with even the demotivation. You have to be okay with it. But in the midst of how do I deal with it? I have to have an authentic mindset of intentionality. I have to have a mindset that no matter what is happening around me, I have to do this, not just for me, but the reason that I said I would do it. Okay? The reason that I said I would do it. And so intentionality keeps you going. Intentionality says, I can do this, even when everything else around you says you cannot. Intentionality gives you not just the ability, but the push to move in the presence of obstacle, in the presence of difficulty, in the presence of everything that would be an antagonistic idea that will come against what you want to do or what you're planning. So in setting that goal, decide to be intentional, okay? In intentionality, what's on the inside of intentionality, the way you can be intentional, I have 3 things, and I'm probably not even gonna do the whole 10 minutes because these amazing people have said so much. I've been writing notes. But one of the things about intentionality, what keeps you intentional is accountability. What keeps you intentional is being, watch this, not just, Janelle just said it, not just being around people that will keep you accountable, but keep yourself accountable. Be honest about where you are. Be honest about where you want to go, right? So Andrew talked about clarity. Janelle talked about, really, really looking at the reality of things. So one of the things about accountability, it helps me look at reality. It helped me look at what's not there. Sometimes accountability will challenge your belief system. One of the biggest things, hear me real good, one of the biggest things that will mess with you in your goals is the inability or the decision to not allow yourself to be challenged. Okay? Do not put yourself around all types of people that constantly celebrate you, but don't have anything to push you to something better. Make sure you have people around you that challenge your belief system. Okay? Accountability is very important, y'all. Make sure you are teachable. This is number 2. This is what's going to help keep you intentional. Make sure you are you're listening to podcasts. You're reading books. I'm going to be honest with y'all. That is something that I've actually, and I'm a transparent person, right? That is something that I've actually had to take on in this season. This season of my life, In order to do, some of you see me on Soul Talks during the week, some of you see me doing different things. In order to do it, I had to literally be okay with listening to other people. I had to be okay with watching YouTube videos. I had to be okay with listening to things, watch this, that not just motivates me, but that pushes me to be a better me. What you listen to can affect your intentionality. What you give yourself ear to, like he was saying and like she was saying earlier, you might have to check your binge watching on Netflix. Especially when you're setting these goals, because you have to have a realistic view on what it takes. Because it takes tenacity. It takes a work ethic that sometimes, like she said, some people will be sleeping, you'll be working. But you have to allow yourself to be teachable. You have to allow people in. You have to allow information in. And be teachable on the subject that you're pushing for. Don't just give yourself to everything out there, okay? Like she just said, because then it just have you all over the place. And so it can still cause you to misinterpret your goals. Because you'll start to look at the way everybody else does it, and you'll start to look at all these other different things, and it'll cause you to not pay attention to what you're doing. So make sure you're gonna be taught by something. Be taught by something that will push you towards where you're going. Okay? Put yourself around people that are where you want to go. Right? Get around people that are where you want to go. Get around people that have what you want. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Number 3 that keeps you intentional is adaptability. He said it earlier. If I can prepare to fail, when failure shows up, he didn't say it won't affect you, but somehow you know how to adapt better. That's the ability to be able to change with situations. Like Janelle said, God has given us in our nature an innovative, creative ability to change. Not just to create in the flow, but sometimes you're gonna have to adapt to certain things. Sometimes you're gonna have to look at things right in the face and be like, okay, because some stuff you can't prepare for, right? Some stuff you see it and you're like, okay, I thought I would see that coming, but I didn't see that. And so how do I adapt? How do I make sure that I'm in a position, no matter what, to make sure I execute that goal? Another thing that keeps you intentional. This is a big one for me, okay? And so I had to keep it in front of me. She told you earlier, write it down. Make a vision board. I had to literally keep it in my sight so I could see, okay, DeUndrae, this is what you see. This is where you're going. This is what you want to do. And it helps you not lose sight of it. Because when things get hard, when you have to adapt, when you have to hear people teach, when you have to hear people challenge your belief system, when you have to go through the different things of life, those of you who have children, some of you have spouses, some of you have other things that move around what you desire to do. And so you have to be able to keep something in front of you that says, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going. With that intentionality, it pushes you to keep that energy going no matter what. When you want to get to the edge and you're like, look, I'm done. Because sometimes you have those moments. Sometimes you have those moments. You have those moments sometimes where it's pushing in that thing and going after it. You just get to the point where you're like, especially when you're like, I don't feel like I'm where I want to be. I've been realistic about it. I did everything I thought I was supposed to do. I heard them say all this stuff in the workshop, but I still don't see the results. That intentionality gives you the ability to go back and look again. Give yourself the opportunity to take another look. And I promise you, even in the hardship, you'll still be able to find the good thing. Like she said, no, you probably only accomplished 2. Some people don't accomplish 2 out of 20. Some people are still at the thought, right? So you have to find the place where you can keep it in front of you, no matter what. And one of the things that I learned how to do to write it down, and the crazy thing is, I actually learned this at a job that I had. You know, those of you, if you ever worked at a call center or anything where you had to accomplish certain goals, they had certain goals that we had to set. And what we had to do, we had to write the goal that was immediate. Okay, and she said it earlier. And then we had to go for the near future. Then we had to go that could wait. So if I wanted to get to $10,000 in my sales, I had to write certain goals. Literally, we were given this assignment Monday through Friday. The crazy thing was every day my goal changed, or not even changed, it expanded. Why? Because the more I accomplish, the more I see. The more I see, the more I'm gonna do. That's why she said it, and that's why Andrew said it. Goals are the start. But in you setting those goals, that start is powerful. Never allow yourself to stay at a place of ambition where you have the desire, you have the burning thing on the inside of you that wants to get it done. Or if you're a believer, you heard a word and you hear it and you receive it and you get excited and you want it. But that's it. Be intentional about what's been given. Because even once you start to set it, after you begin to set it, after you begin to look at it, after you begin to get that clarity, after you begin to be consistent, after you begin to execute, then that thing grows. And so then you have to make more goals. So it creates a perpetual growth in your life. Because the more goals you accomplish, the better you become, and then you see even more. Okay? So from intentionality, from keeping it in front of you, and from writing those things down, remember, immediate, I need to get this done right now. Okay? Because that's what goals are. Goals are literally the object of ambition of things that you desire to complete over a particular period of time. Goals are meant to be done in the timeline. The thing about it is how fast or how slow it goes depends on you and who you know you are. That's why it's important that you know you, but that's also why it's important that you're accountable, right? Because in goal setting, in pushing that thing, in writing that immediate goal, the thing that I need to get done now, my timeline depends on me, but I need people and things around me that help me push beyond myself. Because believe it or not, even who you see today is more to you. Who you see right now, I promise you, is even more to you. I'm learning that now. There are things about me, I'm like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Sitting on here talking to y'all, I did not know that I would do that. As much of a preacher as I am, that's different between being a preacher and a coach. Yes, you're both spokesmen, but it's different. And so I had to become okay with who I am, but I also had to become okay with that's more to me. So in setting that goal and writing that immediate goal, that timeline depends on you, right? The timeline depends on you. So immediate, near future, and what can wait. Make sure that when you're writing goals down, it's those three places. What I need to accomplish now, what has high superiority, but I can accomplish it like within the next couple of months. But then what can wait? What does that do? That helps you calm down. Because sometimes in goal setting, we have to give our mind a break, because your mind does this. Whether you are creating, whether you want to write a book, whether you want to own a business, no matter what, once you start setting those goals, if you don't give yourself space and time, you will literally cause your mind to run, and you'll start setting unrealistic goals that you don't have to do to yourself. Okay? So when you're writing those vision boards, when you're creating, immediate, near future, and what can wait. Okay? From that place, you put it into action, and you put it into action in that order. Once you write those goals down, once you get that why in front of you, put it into action. I want you to write this down. I don't have to wait. That's so simple. Why would you say that? Because some of us accomplishing our goals is in the moment we make the decision to move. After you write it down, because like she said, like he said, and I'm gonna tell you again, the goals, writing them down, that's a start. But after you write it down, there's another step, right? So I don't have to wait to do this. Create your margins, figure out what you can do right now, get that space in front of you, and make sure, like she said, you are realistic about it. In other words, I haven't even figured out how to make 500 yet. So let me figure out how to make 500 before I run trying to figure out how to make 1 million. Set space, be realistic. But then from that setting of space, from being realistic, from setting those goals, you don't have to wait to move. Don't let fear, intimidation, or the fact there's so many other people doing it, not the way you're going to. Like she said, thousands of restaurants. But one thing you must know is in those thousands of restaurants, all of them taste different. And so what's in you, only you can do it. So you have to look at it like, I don't have to wait. You have to believe in what you have. This helps your intentionality. Because again, that's my subject. I'm talking about intentionality. Believe in yourself. Believe that you can achieve it. Okay? So with intentionality, we have accountability, we have teachable, we have adaptability. We write it down, we keep it in front of us. We build space for ourselves. And in the midst of all of that, never lose your why. Never lose it. Never lose it. I'm gonna give you, like I said, I'm transparent, and I'm gonna say this and I'm done actually. I'm gonna tell you, like, so those of you that know, I do this thing called Soul Talks, Mondays through Thursdays. Janelle and Andrew know me very well. They're two of my best friends in the world, right? I have talked myself out of this many times, okay? Many times. And it literally came to a place where I had to look at myself, and what I realized, and like she said earlier, You got to figure out what it is that's holding you back from doing what you want to do. I realized I was afraid. I didn't feel like I had enough to say. And, you know, some people that know me would be like, DeUndrae, like, people love you and da-da-da-da. It was just different for me because that was something that I had to be in front of the camera Monday through Thursday, talking for an hour. And I didn't believe in what I had. My greatest gift is talking. I have other gifts, but that's one of my greatest gifts, is talking to people, okay? In the midst of that, I had to get to a place where I wrote things down. I'm gonna tell you one of the reasons why I'm doing Soul Talk so consistently, even in the midst when I don't feel like it. There are times I'm doing Soul Talks and I don't feel it. There are times I'm doing Soul Talks and I'm going through stuff myself. But what caused me to do it and what caused me to remain consistent is I wrote things down and I kept the why in front of me. Once I put that why in front of me, I had to become intentional. Because I realized, DeUndrae, if you don't make a move, you're going to keep this thing as an idea that was given to you, and people are going to miss whatever they're supposed to have from your life. So I want to tell you guys, and women, the goals that you have aren't just about you. Somebody is going to be impacted by what you desire to do. Get that why in front of you and stay intentional. You will accomplish it. Don't let nobody rush you, and don't you rush yourself. Because like they said, it's a process, but I promise you it's worth it, and so are you. All right, I'm done.